Hello, what's up everybody? How is it going? Welcome to another video of tutorial series Code Igniter from scratch. In the previous video, we learned about setting up and configuring Code Igniter. We downloaded a fresh Code Igniter zip file, we extracted it, we created a project inside our root directory. We learned about the configuration file, the config.php, and we set our base URL. We learned a little bit about controller and beautifying the URL through routes, and how to remove the file name from the URL and use the URI segment. So few things we covered yesterday, and today we'll continue the same topic. And the folder that we discussed yesterday was CI. So here we are. So we were able to load the welcome file. We also created a constructor called test.test, and we create an index function, and we also create a fn2 function. So these were some few things that we learned yesterday. Today let us just continue with this. So yesterday we created a controller called test.php, and we created two functions with simple printing. This is index page and this is fn2. But as I told yesterday, that we don't generally display something inside the controller, rather we load the view from the controller. Okay, so today we'll be learning how to connect the view file with the controller. So basically, as I told yesterday, controller is the main part of the, or let's say the main class that collaborates with the client side and the database and performs all the necessary logic. And at the same time, the URL that we browse through actually searches for the controller, which is the first URI segment after the base URL. So if our base URL is localhost/ci/, then immediately the first thing that is being written in the URL, the first URI segment, is our controller name. So as soon as we write something in the URL, it starts searching for the controller. So right now it will search for the controller test. So it finds the controller over here, test, and secondly it searches for the function, which is fn2, and it searches for the function and does whatever is written inside the function. So so this is how controller actually deals with the URL, and it is the main core class that communicates with the client application and at the same time communicates with the database. So in the language of Code Igniter, it communicates with the view file and with the model file. So today we'll learn how to create a controller which so what I want to do today is, so whenever we browse localhost/ci, I don't want to load this, rather I want to create my own view file. Okay, I mean I want to load my own view file and my own controller. So let us create a home controller. Okay, so this was for the reference to just to learn the concept of controller. So today we'll be doing some real something that is practical. So we'll create our home controller this way. We'll give the name as home.php and a class home extends. We need to extend this class with ci_controller. Okay, so the default function as soon as the home controller is called is function index. So whatever we do here should be reflected in our browser, right? So let us just try to see if everything is working. So this is home page. Just let us try to echo it and try to browse home, and it will by default call the index function, and index function is just printing out this is home page. Okay, but I don't want to print something inside the controller, but rather I want to load a view file. So in order to load a view file, first of all let us create a view file. So let us create a view file called, let's say, home.php. Okay, So home.php will be our view file, which I just created inside views. So what I want to do here is I just want to create a simple HTML and give the title like home, or let's say my project, my CI project maybe. And inside the body I want to give h1 tag and say this, or let's say home. Okay, and write some paragraph. Maybe you can copy some text from lipsum.com, lipsum. And I want to place a paragraph inside lipsum, inside a paragraph tag like this. I want to create a few paragraphs. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this, paste it 2 or 3 times, and if now I see like if I just load the home page and nothing is happening. So now what I can do is inside my home index, instead of echoing something, I'll just load my view file. Now in order to load this view file, what I need to do is I just need to call the function, which is this load and view. And inside the view function I can just place the name of the view file, which is home, and I don't need to give the extension .php. It will understand automatically that I'm trying to load the file which is home.php inside views folder. So by doing this we'll be able to load the view file from our controller. Let's just give a try. Now if I refresh this, maybe I have not saved it yet, so let me save it and try to reload the home. Now we can see that we have successfully loaded our view file through the controller. So this is quite simple. All we need to do is just call the function view. So this load view, and within the bracket inside the code I just need to give the name of the view file without the extension, and it will load it. Right, so let me get a little bit more further. Let us say we have a navigation like ul. Okay, so ul, and my navigation would be li. Let's just give some anchors instead of ul and li. So anchor, my URL would be home, and my URL would be about, and my URL would be contact. Right, so I have, let us suppose I have 3 menus: home, about, and contact. Let's see. Yes, we have the menu. Let us say we also have some footers. Okay, so inside my, before my body tag close, I want to display some links, maybe the same link. Let us assume that this is the same links are inside our footer, inside maybe a div tag. Let us give a class called footer. Inside footer we have 3 links. Let us give the class called header. Class equals to header, and inside our header I would like to have these 3 links. Now what if I want to repeat this code in all the view files? Because if we try to browse something, we'll see that our heading are generally the same, right? And our footers are also repeating always. The only thing that changes is our main content. So what if you want to have a fixed header and fixed footer in each and every page? So in that case, what I can do is I can place this file. Okay, so I can place this file inside some file called header.php. So I copied that code and just pasted it here. So this is my header, which should be repeated in each and every view. Similarly, if I have a footer which starts from here and ends till here, so this is something that I want to repeat in each and every page. So what I will do is I'll place these 2 code snippet inside 2 files. Right, now in previously what we learned a function called include in core PHP. So if you just include, it will work, but we are not going to include in coordinator. There's a special function, and that is the same function like this. this load view home. So this is loading the view called home, but before this I want a header, and after this I want a footer. So what I can do is I can just run the same function, that is this load view, and what I want to load here is header. So what I can do is just header. By doing this, we have already included our header on the top and our footer on the bottom, this way. So what I can do is I can just include the header on the top and footer on the bottom by running this load view, just like we ran it in the controller. We can also run it inside our view files this way. So now what we have done is we have this code now being loaded inside here, and we have this code being loaded inside here. So our document is complete now. Now let us try to see if everything is working fine. You can see everything is working fine. We have the header, we have the footer, and we have the body. So this is how we let's say load headers and footers, and we load a view through controller or maybe even inside view. So let us suppose we have some other page, and maybe our page would be about. Okay, so I want to load a view called about inside about.php. Okay, I mean inside the about function of home. So what I want to do is I want to create another file called about.php, and it should look something same like home.php. So I want the header on the top, I want the footer on the bottom, but instead of calling it home, I want to call it about. Right? So if I go to home/about, it should load about page, which is running exactly how we want, right? So I'm loading a view called about, and inside my about I'm loading my header and I'm loading my footer. So by just including our header and footer in a common file, we can reuse it inside each and every view files. Okay, so this is another thing we learned, how to load different headers, different view files for different functions, and how to load sub view files inside our main view file. For example, if we have a sub view file called header and footer, we can load it this way. So this is how we can load our view file. Now another thing that I want to discuss today is, suppose I want to, whenever I type my localhost/ci, I want to load my home page. So how do I do that? So currently we can see the home page is home/index, right? Now in order to make this work, instead of this welcome page, I want my home page to be loaded by default. So in order to do that, what I can do is I can go inside my config and I can click on routes. So you can see here the reason why this page is being loaded is because of our default controller set inside our routes. It is saying that my default controller is welcome. So instead of writing welcome, if I write home, now it will by default load the home controller, and it will search for home, the index function of the home controller, and it will load our home page. Let's see. Now if I run localhost/ci, it loaded our home page. Why? Because in our default controller inside routes.php, we have set the default controller to be home. So whenever we hit localhost/ci, it searches for the home controller, and since the default function for the home controller is index, it will run the index function. Similarly, if I want to go to about page, now instead of just saying localhost/ci, we have to give the full path this way, home/about. Now we are in the about page. Now let's try to also link these this home page and about page to its respective URL. Okay, now in order to do that, if you remember, we auto loaded URL in our previous video. We auto loaded a helper called URL. After loading this helper, we can use various functions provided by CodeIgniter for URL manipulation. So one of that is base URL, as I mentioned earlier, we have set our base URL to be localhost/ci. Now we can use this base URL, a function called base URL, after we have loaded our URL helper inside. Auto load URL helper this way. So once we have auto loaded our URL helper, now we can use any functions of URL helper throughout our website, and one of the most popular function is base URL. Now if you go to home page, I mean header, I want to give some URL to this, to these about us and home page. So our URL for home page is our base URL, right? So if we just click on localhost/ci, we'll be in our home page. So this base URL localhost/ci is our URL for home page. Now in order to generate our base URL over here, what we can do is we can just echo the base URL this way. So this will give our base URL, put our base URL into the href, right? Now if I want to go to about us, so what I have to do is I have to write home/about. So I need to it's saying undefined variable base URL. It is not variable, it is a function. Okay, this way. So home/about, right? So since base URL is a function, so I need to print the response of this function, and it will return me the base URL of the of our system. So in order to go to the about page, I need to append home/about to the URL, the base URL. So I need to have my base URL echo base_URL, and I need to concatenate home/about, right? So my base URL is localhost/ci/ and the thing that I need to append for about is home/about. Now if I just refresh this and check, our link for home is home page, and my link for about is my about page. So our system is working perfectly. So we learned a new function today of CodeIgniter's URL helper. Some of the functions provided by CodeIgniter's URL helper is base URL, one of the functions, which is base URL, and the base URL generally prints exactly the same URL that we have defined inside config base URL. And since we have also added a slash in the end, we don't need to add slash in the URL before the home, because we already have slash in the base URL at last. So we want to give home and about. So this will print localhost/ci/ and then home and then about. So this way we can give our full URL in our CodeIgniter's anchor using the base URL. Well, there is another function in CodeIgniter in order to manipulate or print out the URLs. So in order to use base URL, we have to concatenate the remaining URL segments along with the base URL. But we have another function called site URL, and in order to use site URL, what we can do is we can just place this home/about us inside site URL this way. Now what this will do is it will automatically print the base URL in the beginning of home and home/about. So it will print the base URL in front of home, so it will automatically print localhost/ci/home/about. So if you don't want to use the function, pass the parameter inside the function, this way you can use base URL like this. But if you want to automatically print out the URL on the basis of your URL segments, you can pass the remaining URL segment inside site URL, and it will automatically print out the full URL for you. So if you now try to refresh, you can see the base URL is also working and the site URL is also working. So these two functions, base URL and site URL, is provided by the helper URL, which we loaded inside config autoload.php. So what is helper? Helper is just a set of functions which the CodeIgniter team has prepared for us already. So there are various helpers like URL helper, form helper, email helper, there are lots and lots of helpers. These are not class, these are just a file with set of functions inside it, and we can just use those functions as per we wish, right? So helpers, if you see, it is located here, but this is not the helper that we are looking for. Actually, the helpers provided by CITM is inside system, and there's another folder called helpers. So we can see all of these helpers are already prepared for us, and we can just use the function of these files by just loading it like this. So once we have loaded it, now we can use the functions of that helper. So we have just loaded URL helper. Now if you go to URL underscore helper, you will see there are lots and lots of functions here, like site URL, which will return the site URL to us, base URL, which will return the base URL, current URL, and lots of other functions which you can go through. So these functions are provided by URL helper. We don't need to worry much about it. We can just go to the documentation and check out what base URL does and what site URL does. So these were the few things that we learned today. We learned how to load the view file. We learned how to load the view file inside view file and inside controller. We separated our header and footer and loaded it in each and every view file that we use. We learned how to set our default controller. So I made my home controller default controller so that if I type localhost/ci, it will automatically load our home page. We also learned how to generate a dynamic full URL from my base URL, starting from a base URL. So we assigned the base URL to home, and we assigned our required URL to about anchor, so using site URL. So we learned base URL, we learned site URL in order to create a full URL. So this was it for today. I think we can continue more tomorrow on new topics and new tricks on how to make our code work faster. We'll keep on exploring with Codeigniter, so just stay connected with me. If you like the video, please give a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed it yet, I hope you will subscribe it and click on the bell icon if you don't want to miss any video from me. And if you have any confusions, you can mention it in the comment below. I would really appreciate that, and I'll see you tomorrow with the new topic in Codeigniter. Till then, have a nice time. Goodbye.